AI makes people intellectually lazy. I'll die on that hill. And I have a proof, or I have some proof to back up my claim. Here's an excerpt from an article. I think the entire article is written by AI, but I don't know. But I do know that the dean who wrote this article, some guy who is a dean at some university, wrote an article and said that I'm using AI to write articles, to write posts, to write comments because it's such a great tool and because it can help me get my points across, blah, 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 all that kind of crap. And excuse me, I can't even talk. What he really is saying is he can't even properly communicate. He doesn't have the persuasive power to make people listen to him. Here is an excerpt. And by the way, this excerpt is translated from Norwegian, my native language, into English. It sounds cheesy and weird. And that's because it sounded cheesy and weird as well in Norwegian. It really did. I had to read it twice, or I think 3 times, to make sure that I got every single word with me and that I really sort of understood what the cat was trying to say. It was just weird. Now, Alice, here we go. Here's the excerpt from the article. I allocate time to think through the case through different angles and write my thoughts in the sequence in which I like to present them and in the shape they come to me in, sometimes with missing connections. I then let AI improve my point and suggest a few connections that will make it easier to follow my argument. I don't allow the tool to invent my ideas. What does that even mean? What are you saying, bro? I don't even understand you. What are you trying to say here? Really, I don't even understand. And I try to understand. And yes, this is word-wise, word by word, the translation from Norwegian to English. It doesn't make any sense. And especially this sentence, I don't allow the tool to invent my ideas. Yes, you do. You allow the tool to invent your ideas because you just admitted to allowing the tool, the AI, to improve your points and structure your sentences and even suggest new connections. I'm not sure what he means by connections, but I think he means segues, or ways to segue from one sentence to another or one point to another, right? I think that's what he means by connections. I really wasn't sure either because it made no sense what he wrote in Norwegian. But let's assume that as a fact because that sounds realistic and likely. Well, if you need new connections, if you need a new method to seek from one idea to another, you absolutely use AI. You allow the tool to give you new ideas because you didn't know how to use the idea of seeking from one sentence to another. So you're a liar. You're a bald-faced liar. And you're also intellectually lazy. That's what you are. That's what makes AI so scary to use, especially with respect to communication. Now, somebody said this the other day, and that was a great usage of AI. If I'm looking for a document online, and I don't know exactly the name of the document, I don't know where to find it, I know that it has been archived somewhere, then I can use ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini to describe what the document entails, and then ask ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok to find the name of the document and the link to where it is, and to verify whether the document contains what I was looking for or not. In other words, like a library browser or an archives browser. That's a great way of using AI because it goes fast and there's a million searches it has to go through. Absolutely. And also, this is how I would have used AI if I were disciplined enough. And I am disciplined enough. But let's say I was a student at university and I was studying mathematics. And I was struggling to solve certain mathematical problems. I struggled, and I worked hard, and eventually I managed to find it out. Right. I got the right answer. I would then run the mathematical problem through AI and ask the AI to explain to me how and why this answer is correct after I myself had devised it. That's a great way of learning. Right? Not the other way. Not use AI to cheat. That's wrong. And that makes you dumber. But using AI to verify and to assure the quality of your response, absolutely. That's also another great way of using AI. But having it writing your articles and then having the nerve to lie about you not allowing the tool to create new ideas for you, I mean, you're just dumb. You're just proving to yourself how dumb you are. And the fact that you're working as a dean at a university, well, then maybe you should apply for a new job. Maybe, just maybe. So this actually reminds me in closing of another article that I saw that was entirely written by AI. And this journalist, by the way, this article was written entirely by AI by some photographer journalist who works in what is being sort of like promoted as being a serious news outlet. Like, this news outlet claims to have the moral high ground. They warn about fake news, etc., etc. And they always want to present themselves as like the real, honest journalists, which they're not. Not if you're allowing one of your own to write an entire article using AI and then you actually run it. Now you're just making yourself look like a moron, like a fool. So anyway, this journalist, in air quotes if you couldn't see, used ChatGPT to write her entire article for her, and then argued that, oh yeah, but that's not dangerous. That's not bad. That's like driving a car instead of riding a horse, or it's like using a calculator to solve a mathematical problem. No, it's not. It's not even comparable. You're just dumb. Really dumb. The fact that you're comparing using a car to drive from A to B instead of riding a horse carriage as the same sort of progression as using AI to write an article when you're too intellectually lazy to even do that, just shows you how wrong this has gone. It's not even comparable at all. And it makes you look dumb. Now, this same journalist admitted to being so lazy that she couldn't even think about dinner to make for herself. So she would rather open the fridge, take a photo of what's inside the fridge, then ask ChatGPT to suggest dinner for herself. She also admitted to not having enough money to pay for a shrink because she felt depressed, so she used AI as her shrink, as her therapist. This is... I'm laughing because it's just so dumb and absurd. It really is. Moral of the story is, obviously, don't use AI to write, to have an article written for you. Don't outsource your persuasion to AI because it can't replicate the persuasion. And don't lie about it. Actually be honest about what you're doing. Persuasion is best or works best for business if you're being honest. And lying about it certainly doesn't make things easier. If you want to learn more about persuasion, especially with respect to business and so on, then get subscribed to my email list. The link to do so is in the episode description wherever you're watching and or listening to this, and I'll see you there.